Oh, I'm so excited to have Colin Hay of Men at Work here with me. Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How's yourself?
Oh, just doing great. Thank you so much for asking. Where are you, by the way, right now? Are you in
I'm
California?
home. I'm home, yeah.
California. Okay. All right. Well, you just got off of tour with Toto and Christopher Cross. How was that tour for you?
Well, I'm back on another tour with Ringo now. So
Right.
one tour ends and another one starts.
Right.
Um, yeah, the tour with Christopher and Luke and Toto and the rest of the lads was beautiful. It worked really well. It was an experiment, really. So a lot of people came, and people seem very happy. And we had a lovely time. We travel really well. I have a beautiful band and crew, and so we all had a great time.
When you say experiment, can you elaborate on that? I'm curious to know what you mean by that.
Well, Steve Lukather and I had talked about this idea of going on the road together, Men at Work and Toto, and they'd been working with Christopher, so Christopher was also like a perfect choice. So you put something together, and you know, you're not quite sure who's going to come, whether there'll be a lot of people, a few people, or so you don't quite know how it's going to go. So it's experimental in that sense. You're not assured of an audience.
Yeah.
You think it'll work, but you're not quite sure. So Live Nation bought the tour, and they seem very happy with it. So I mean,
I'm so bummed that I didn't get a chance to come out. I wanted to go to the Jiffy Lube Live show in Virginia. I was not able to go. I think I was away, but I'm curious, and I haven't done much research on it because I just kind of I wanted to see if I could make it and have it be organic for me. When you guys are out on tour together, do you guys take the stage together and help each other with each other's songs, or is it just literally, you're on the stage solo, you leave, then Christopher comes on, leaves, and then Toto comes on and leaves? Are you guys mixing it in a little bit, or is it just?
no, it's each band. Each band goes on. Men at Work goes on. Then Christopher goes on with his band. Then Toto goes on with his band. But at the end, we all came out and sang Africa. That was the only time we
Nice.
were on stage together. So that was cool.
That's really nice. So you were born in Scotland, and I want to touch on this because I just interviewed Sheena Easton 2 weeks ago, and I said to Sheena, you know, I know Scotland's very small, but it's very rare to get big musical artists out of Scotland. And I mentioned you and a few other people, of course, Annie Lennox and the Proclaimers, and then of course Sheena. Born in Scotland, raised in Australia. You went to Australia when you were 14. Um, I'm curious, you know, do you think going to Australia that the music scene was a little bit different there? And maybe you were able to have a different experience had you, stayed than had you stayed in Scotland?
Oh yeah, completely different. I mean, I would never have written a song called Down Under if I hadn't have gone to Australia.
True, true. Yep.
And but there was a lot of bands in Australia that were based on immigrants. AC/DC were all from Scotland. Most of them were from Scotland. Um, the Young Brothers, Bon Scott, the Bee Gees,
Hmm.
a whole lot of bands that were known as being Australian bands were originally, from Britain or other parts of Europe. So yeah, it's a strange phenomenon that, but it was there was a lot of that in the 60s and 70s of people emigrating to Australia and becoming involved with successful rock and roll bands. Not quite sure why, but it's a fact. And but yeah, I have great admiration and gratitude to my parents for deciding to go to the other side of the world when they were in their 40s and changed all our lives, for the better.
So you've talked about, because I've done a little research, you've talked about how the Beatles were an influence on you. and how when started this acoustic duo with Ron Streicher, before Men at Work was formed, you talked about how you guys would do some Beatles covers. Was it a full circle moment to join Ringo's band, and how did that happen for you?
Well, it wasn't a full circle. I think it was more of a semicircle.
Semicircle. Okay. Okay. I'm so curious to know, how did this come to be?
Well, I think that Ringo started doing this over, 30 odd years ago. I think it was, I don't know, more than that now, 35 years ago or something.
Mhm.
Um, but one of the prerequisites you have to have if you're going to be asked to be in Ringo's band is you have to have had hits on your own. So I think they just have lists of people that they think, oh, well, he might be an interesting person to have. And so I got the call in 2003 um, to see if I was interested in doing it. Um, I'm not quite sure, why they asked me. I think that there used to be a guy that produced Ringo's shows, and I think that he got my name, and they check you out. You have to make sure that they have to make sure you can still stand up straight and sing your own songs. And so they asked me to do it. I first did it in 2003, and then I did a television thing with Ringo, and but I didn't get asked to do it again until 2008, and then I didn't get asked to do it for another 10 years, and so
Mm.
it's just been sporadic. And but since 2018, I've done it ever since then. So for the last 7 years, I've been involved in that band, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to be part of. I never take it for granted. It's playing with Ringo, and he was in the Beatles, for God's sake. So it's
Yeah.
it's a phenomenal thing to be part of.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and you play with some really interesting people as well. I mean, I love the term super group, because you are essentially getting all of these superstars on one stage, and what a show that is. It's pretty cool. And I like the fact that you do Ringo tunes and Beatles tunes, but also he allows you guys to do your stuff as well. And I love that. I love that you guys are able to do that
Well,
together.
that's the whole point. Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
that's why he puts it together. Otherwise, he would just have a backing band.
Yep.
But he doesn't have a backing band. He has, well, he does have a backing band, but he also has a band that, as I said
Hmm.
before, you have to have had hits on your own to. Although Edgar was doing it for a while, but he stopped doing it. So Edgar Winter, that is, and
Yes. Edgar Winter.
so now we have a guy called Buck Johnson who's a who's a beautiful singer and keyboard player. He doesn't have hits on his own, but he's a fantastic musician. So he took over from Edgar, and he's been doing it for the last couple of years as well. So it's Buck Johnson and Steve Lukather and Hamish Stewart, myself, and
Mhm.
Greg Bissonette on drums, and Ringo, and a guy called Warren Ham, who is a utility, plays many different instruments. So it's been the same band for a while now. So it feels great because it feels like a band, you know.
Well, that's amazing. And you're on tour now, right? With the All-Star Band, and then
Yeah,
um you hit your solo tour, kick it off on October 8th, I think, in Santa Barbara, right?
that's correct. Yes.
Wow. I mean, so you're are we going to call you a tour hopper? Are you a tour hopper, Colin? I love that. Are you giving yourself a break? You're able to just rest your instrument a little bit and take some downtime in between so that you stay healthy and are able to continuing to do this?
I wouldn't say downtime, but little breaks. But this is a bit silly this year in terms of recording, in terms of touring. It's a lot. And so, yeah, you have to kind of pace yourself a little bit. But I get to come home for a few days at a time. Yeah.
I mean, did you ever think young Colin would think, I'm going to be so busy in 2025? Did you expect this? I mean, is it a surprise to you, or are you feeling really lucky that you're keeping busy like this? I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I don't think too much about it. It's just today, and when I was younger, I wouldn't have thought about 2025, or I would just have thought about what's going on at that moment. I wouldn't have. I didn't think to myself, oh well, I'm not going to do this for forever.
Yeah.
I've never really particularly wanted to do anything else, and so I'm grateful that I still get to do it, and I'm grateful that I still have an audience.
Yeah, you do have an audience, so many fans out there. And we just love this music and love that you guys still tour so that we can enjoy it and see it. I want to go back to 1981 to your debut album, Business as Usual. What an album. I mean, the three standouts, of course, Who Can It Be Now, Down Under, and Be Good Johnny. I love all of those songs, and I love all the songs on the album. Can you take us back in time a little bit to recording that first album and what that was like for you guys being able to put together this great album and have it be such a success right off the bat?
Well, the key person involved in that was the producer, an American guy called Peter McKeon,
Mm.
who sadly passed away a few months ago. Um, he came, he was the producer, and so we did a lot of pre-production for that. So before we went into the studio, we were pretty prepared. He'd kind of popified the songs, if you like, because sometimes the songs were too long and they were arranged a bit strangely. So we worked on the arrangements together with him. So when we went into the studio, um, it only took 10 days to finish to do the whole record. So
Wow. I did not know that. 10 days to finish the whole record?
yeah, he took it back to LA and mixed it back here, but it was just
Wow.
5 days to record the basic tracks and 5 days to finish the overdub. So yeah, we were done pretty quickly. Very efficient.
Wow. It's amazing. And how did you feel making that first album as a group? Because again, you were a duo and then you added Jerry and Greg to become Men at Work. And
And
I know
John,
that and
and
John and
John.
that yep, and John, and it was a little different for you. Can't forget John, I'm sorry. So being able to be in a group and make music your way, essentially, because you guys were the songwriters, how did that feel to get that first album out and start to see it chart?
Oh, it was incredible. It was truly, truly phenomenal. Um, I mean, we were always very ambitious, and so we wanted to have not only national success, we wanted to have international success. That was always our goal,
Mhm.
which is why we signed with CBS Records. It was a horrible deal. It was almost a criminal deal, but that's another story. Um, but we wanted to record. We wanted to have success internationally, and CBS they were an international label, and they were really the only label that was interested in us, which was fortuitous. So we signed with them, and there was a lot of synchronistic things that happened to create our success. But it started to, we always felt successful when we first started. We felt successful. We felt successful because people came to see us, and then more people came to see us. Then a lot of people came to see us, and so we were on a path, and we were pretty confident that we could make it work, and which is what we did.
You guys started in a time where um it was an interesting time in music, Colin. You're coming out of essentially what is a yacht rock time, disco time, um,
Well, it
punk,
wasn't it wasn't
new
known as
wave.
yacht. It wasn't known as yacht rock then. That was just
It
made
was
up in the
not.
last
It
few
was
years.
not known as yacht rock then, but it is now. And we love it. And I have a show across the country for yacht rock. And yes, I have Men at Work on that because I like to have a large umbrella, as I like to say. But but you came in this time where you had disc coming out of disco, punk, new wave, um, pop rock, hard rock. Um, was it easy for you to kind of differentiate where you all fit in? Because some people would say that Men at Work is new wave, and some would say that it's pop rock, and others would say it's rock. How did you know back then what you were kind of going into and that time where to fit in?
Oh, I never gave that any thought whatsoever, really. I mean, you know, you get affected by everything. I think that more than anything, you have music that has affected you when you're young, and that tends to be something which is almost part of your DNA. Like my great love was the Beatles, and you know, I love the Kinks and the Rolling Stones and the Who and all those British beat bands, if you like. So that's really what was really closest to my heart. And then, of course, my brother turned me on to other music like Otis Redding and Booker T and the MGs and different,
Mm,
you know, black music that I was you know, more or less unaware of until he turned me onto it. Soul music, if you like, R&B music, and so forth. So
oh yeah.
that's what I and then Stevie Wonder came, and of course, you know, you had things in the you know, prog rock, and you had, you know, punk music coming out of, you know, getting as a reaction to that, disco, all those things you mentioned, which which, you know, you're aware of. I think probably the band that impressed me most of all during that time was the Police,
Mm,
because they were a trio, and and I was amazed by the songs and the space in the music, and the way
yeah.
Andy Summers played guitar, and obviously the way Sting sang and wrote songs and so. So I was very impressed by that band. We were already playing the way, and we already sounded the way we sounded, um, and it was really just based on, and a lot of the way that I played was, you know, reggae was really big in Australia during that time, Bob Marley and a lot of other bands as well. So I was always, you know, kind of playing on the offbeat, so to speak, and that affected a lot of how I played and how I sang. And so you know, I take a song to the band, and the band would play it the way they heard it, and obviously with the producer adding to it. But I think that what Peter did, the producer, rather than be, you know, affected by other music that's around, like the kinds of music that you mentioned,
Mhm.
you're being um, it's really the song. It's really the song that you're listening to. You go, how should this song be presented? What's the best way to present this song? It has nothing to do with what other things that are around. It's just, okay, how do we present this song and give it, you know, in the best light possible. And that was really our approach.
When you think of songwriting, because I always say songwriters have the stories, when you think of songwriting and you think of, you know, where you were, the time, your frame of mind, let's just say uh Down Under, Who Can It Be Now, and Be Good Johnny. Out of those three songs, when you think back to the songwriting process for those three songs, which one stands out as having the most interesting songwriting process? And can you tell me about it and how you came up with it?
Well, it was just really it was more a period of time, really, rather than individual songs. I mean, um, Who Could It Be Now was written really quickly. Up in my girlfriend at the time and I used to have a piece of rural bushland in the middle of nowhere in southern New South Wales, and I just messed around, and I with that song idea, and took about 40 minutes to put together. And she said, "Oh, that'll be your first hit record," and she was correct. Down Under was a kind of a combination of Ron and I. It was interesting. I think it was interesting in the sense that he used to record little cassettes of interesting soundscapes, and he used to give me these tapes to listen to, and I had this phrase running around my head for a few weeks before that, which was "living in the land down under." I didn't particularly have a melody, but I just would say this, sing this "living in the land down under." It was an interesting thing, and so I was playing one of Ron's little cassettes in the car, and it was a very hypnotic, percussive kind of bass. It was percussion and bass, and I just started singing "Living in the Land Down Under" along with that particular piece of music, and so that's how that came together, and which was very exciting at the time.
Mm.
And Be Good Johnny, it was Greg and I just sitting around rehearsal room before everyone else had arrived, and we arrived early, and I just bought a little delay pedal for my guitar and started playing it, and I played this little guitar piece, which with the delay, which had a particular sound, and so the song was kind of like written around this little delay pattern that I was working with. So, but it was a very it was a very it was a it was a it was a very it was a very good period for me in terms of song ideas, because I had this band and I had a vehicle for whatever song ideas I had. And so
Mhm.
you could write a song on Tuesday, rehearse it on Tuesday afternoon, and play it on Tuesday night. Everything was very immediate.
It's amazing to me how quickly things come together. Sometimes people say, "Oh, it took years to create this song," and it's amazing
Yeah,
how
sometimes that yeah, sometimes you got to
40
rest.
minutes for who can it be
Yeah,
now? That's pretty
yeah,
cool. That's pretty cool. Um, I know that you moved to Australia when you were 14. I hear now the beautiful Scottish accent flowing out of you. You really have not lost a lot of it, even though you've been in the US for a really long time. It's beautiful to listen to. Um, and I've been to Scotland and I love Scotland so much, but never been to Australia. I have heard you talk a little bit about that you did have two accents and you
yeah.
had to have two accents. Can you tell us why?
Oh, just to assimilate. You know, I went to Australia and I spoke like this, and it's different. It's a different accent. So, and when you go somewhere else, and you're 13 or 14, maybe it's different for other people, but I think you don't really want to be different. You want to fit
Mhm.
in with your environment. So it was just it was a coping mechanism. So you don't get noticed,
Yeah.
and so I learned how to speak like an Australian bloke just to assimilate.
That's fantastic. And the second you left, it was gone, right? It was gone. You dropped it and you just kept your Scottish accent, correct?
Yeah, well, it wasn't. It was kind of it was when I came to live in the States. It was like somebody pressed a reset button or something, and the Scottish accent was. I don't know. It's an interesting. I mean, this is just me stabbing it. Taking a punt. I'm not really quite sure about this, but you know, I think that when you're 14, you get to the age of 14, you're kind of almost done. You're almost who you are.
Mhm.
You've got a little bit to go, but you're kind of like, you're pretty set. You haven't, as far as who you are is concerned as a person. And I went to Australia, so there's a superimposition of another culture put onto that. You're kind of like, okay, you become something else, and in a way, you don't forget about who you are, but you kind of, you subconsciously cover it up because you're in this other environment. So now you're an Australian person,
Right.
and I think that, when I came to the third place where the third major place I've lived in my life, which is the United States, California. um, it was like, okay, well, I'm not in Australia anymore, so who am I? And I think that that's when the Scottish person kind of just said, "Oh well, yeah, actually, you're a Scottish guy," So that's who I that's who I am, and that kind of remained as opposed to. I mean, I'm an American citizen, so I'm an American, but I don't have a. I for some reason, maybe it's because I'm older, I didn't develop an American accent. And the Scottish one is the one that remained. So, and I wasn't really particularly conscious. It's just okay. This is
No,
this
I
is who
love it. I love the
this is
Scottish
who I am.
accent. It's beautiful. When I went to Inverness, I have to be honest, it was really, really thick and I had a hard time understanding, but you're from a lot further south than Inverness. Inverness is north. So I think it's different accents, correct?
Correct.
Yes. All right. Well, you are on tour with Ringo Starr's All Star Band. You are hitting the road on October 8th to kick off your solo tour in Santa Barbara. You're going to be around my parts. You're going to be in Annapolis. You're going to be in York, Pennsylvania. You're going to be 2 nights at the Birchmere in Virginia, which is great. People can get their tickets at colinhay.com. They can actually see all of the tour dates and then get their tickets. colinhay.com. It was so incredible talking to you. I have been a very, very, very big fan for a long time. I thank you so much for chatting with me today.
No worries. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Don't go anywhere.